Hi everyone, my name's Brian and welcome to a very clearly different video than what I normally produce. So normally I show off Magic the Gathering decks, normally in Modern, sometimes in Pauper, not in Pauper anymore, normally Modern. And I go through a handful of matches, show off decks I love, and then I post them for my own entertainment. However, I realized something. I watch a lot of Magic the Gathering content, some from very well-known producers, and some from people who are as small or smaller than I am. And I realized that a lot of the people who are my about size, slightly smaller, some even significantly bigger than mine, would benefit from some of the tips and tricks I do when I'm putting my videos together in editing. So I figured rather than keep all of this information to myself or try and scream into the ether how to do this at people, let me put together a super quick video so that you can edit videos the way I do if you so choose and if you think it would benefit you. Now, personally, I use Premiere Pro, which is where we're going to be starting. If you don't use Premiere Pro, sorry. I mean, I've edited in a bunch of things. I've edited in iMovie of all things. But personally, I find Premiere Pro to be the most efficient and best use of my editing time and little prowess that I have. We can go over a different video in the future, and let me know in the comments if you want to see it, how we can go from the idea of a video all the way to posting. But right now, we're just going to focus on the editing section here, which assumes you already have some footage to go through. So, first thing we're going to need is some footage. Hey, would you look at that? It's my archived footage for when I tried to do Sliver Tribal, and it was awful. So why don't we take some of this footage and we'll run it through the ringer. All right, so actually the first thing you're going to want to do is put these into different folders for my method. So they don't have to be anything fancy name, just one folder per file. As you can tell with my stuff, I tend to break it up by intro, then individual matches, and then finally to the outro. You can shoot it all in one big go. I just find that when I do this method, at least with my computer, which isn't even much of a slouch. I mean, thing has 64 gigs of pretty decent RAM, an i7 from a handful of years ago, and a pretty decent graphics card. It still manages to choke on like 3-hour files where I'm using this method. That being said, it does totally work. It just takes a long time. So if you want to follow along from beginning to end, chop your footage up. If you don't care, throw it all in at once. But if you're only working with one big file, you don't have to make the file thing. From there, we're going to go ahead and open Adobe Audition. All right, so here we have Audition, and what we're going to want to do is first grab our thing. So just open, find your file. So here's my two files. Open up one, and here we have my intro. So what we want it to do is we want it to read it, and it's going to show like this. Now, if I zoom in here using my wheel, you can see that there are moments where I'm not saying anything. So like here to here, obviously we don't want this dead air, and while we could edit it out manually, that takes a lot of effort. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to go up to Window, and you want to find Diagnostics. From there, if you've never done this before, you have to hide. Hello everyone, Editing Brian here. While going through the last video, I realized I made an error, so I figured I'd put in a correct one now. So actually what you need to do is you need to find an area of talkie bits and silent bits, scan here, and hit Find Levels. And that will give you your numbers here. So sorry about the weird edit and the mistake. Let's get back to the video. From that point, you want for more than a certain amount. I use 20 milliseconds. I know people who use longer. When I first looked at this tutorial, it was certainly longer. But 20 milliseconds is more than enough. From there, you want to hit Scan. Once you hit Scan, it's going to find all of these markers and just hit Mark All. So as you can see here, what it's doing is it's taking all the areas that fit into these qualifications and it's finding those files and it's making each of them a clip. So if we go back up into Windows and go down into our markers, because we just made them, you'll find we have a whole bunch of these markers, which is the areas where I'm talking, and it turns them into a queue. If you hold down Control and hit A, or Command and A if you happen to be on a Mac, and then right-click on your mouse, this should pop up. Go to Change Marker Types and make them all subclips. Once they're all sub clips, go ahead and save as. Now, it's going to yell at you that it's not going to be able to save as a video. It's going to want to save it as a sound only format because that's how Audition works. Totally fine. Let it do that. Let it save as a .wave, truth be told, and just name it something easy. I always name mine the number of the clip that it is. Intro being 1, and then you have your matches, and the final explanation or wrap up being whatever the highest number is. This one happens to be 1. So I save it as 1. You just go ahead and close and do it again, and I will mercifully spare you watching me do it twice. Once you have all of your files now saved as audio files with the subclips in them, we're going to want to open Adobe Media Encoder. Let's do that now. So when you first open Adobe Media Encoder, it's going to look like this. What you're going to want to do is add your clips, so hit Add Source, find where you're keeping your things. What we want to do is open our auto-only files. So we have that one, and finally we have this one as well, our dot. From there, the only thing we really want to change is we want to click this Match Source here, and we want to change the frame rate from whatever it thinks this audio file's frame rate is to whatever the original recording was. Mine happened to be 60. You do that for this one as well. You could do all of your clips all at once with Media Encoder. So go ahead and do this, and then you just hit Start, which is over here. Again, the Media Encoder is going to update with time, and however old this video is, it might get outdated, but the idea still stands true. You want to be able to take your videos and just take the audio only and put a video file attached to it. And that's what we're doing here. We're giving it essentially a blank video file. Now, once these videos encode to these new video files, we'll be able to pull them into Adobe and give them the videos back, but with all of those subclips taken out, so it's only you talking rather than the dead space. So give this a second to encode. I was a silly person who didn't pull this stuff off of my storage drive and then onto my editing stuff. So this might take me a while. Again, with the magic power of editing, I can edit out dead air, and we'll catch you back in Adobe Premiere. See you in a second. All right, now that that's done, finally, let's go to Premiere. All right, so we're back in Premiere. We've done all the pre-work on our files. We can go ahead and create a new project. I'm just going to call this Slivers Test, because this sure ain't becoming a real video. From there, you're going to want to go to Assembly, which if you click this little box up here, hit Assembly, it'll bring you to an area that looks like this. Now, I create one bin for each of the clips that I've currently edited. So here, we only have the 2. We have the intro, which I'm just going to name bin 1, and we have the one game I recorded with this deck that kind of didn't make it. We'll call that 2. From there, we want to import. So if you just, you can go to File and hit Import, or you can just right-click, hit Import. Go ahead and grab our file. And what we want to grab is we want to grab this one here, the one that we named just the raw audio file that we then put a blank video file on. So we go ahead and open this. And rather than just one file, you're going to see this populate with a whole bunch. All right, so here we have a whole bunch of video files that have no video attached to it. It's all just blank because we put a blank video file on it. However, what we want to do is we want to hold down Control-A, which will select all of the files in this bin. Go over to File and hit Make Offline. Now, you want to make sure all media files remain on the disk. Otherwise, it will blow up your originals. And it's going to make this little question mark doodad going on right there. And from there, you know that it worked. So go back to File, hit Link Media, and it's going to have every last subclip here asking, what are you talking about? Where can we find it? Just hit Locate, and then click your original file. Then what it is going to do, it's going to take all of the subclips that have the voice in it and just make that, and it auto cuts all of your dead air. Now, originally it does look kind of scary. It says a whole bunch of media offline. Don't worry about it. It might take a second depending on how fast your computer and your drives are, but it will all load in eventually, I can promise you. So personally, I like to wait until the red squares are gone before I start moving it. I find that Adobe is sensitive, shall we say, at the best of times, but I think this is looking just about fine. We got a couple more red squares, and then I'll go ahead and grab it and drop it into the timeline. So I know there's still a few up there, but it's probably fine. You're still having selected all of these, so just grab it. You'll see the little fish show up, and just drop it to make a sequence. All right, so one fun thing that this does is we are now in editing, I believe. No, I was wrong. I had to go into editing, and now I'm waiting for Adobe to catch up. Adobe, it's the best way to edit videos on your computer, and that's not saying much. All right, so here we have the original MP3 file, and as you can see here, it's a big old long file. In fact, it's about 15 minutes long, and that's with all of the dead air in it. However, if I remove this original file, all that's left are my subclips that have all the dead air taken out. And now, this entire file clocks in at only 11 minutes and 19 seconds. So that means there was almost 4 entire minutes of completely dead air in this video. So as you can imagine, going from, me taking those long pauses between waiting for my opponent to do something and me doing something, now it just very quickly turns it into much more manageable sort of file. So I don't have to go in and take out any of the dead air myself. I do go in and then I watch the entire video from beginning to end to make sure nothing weird has happened. But assuming it does exactly what I think it's going to do and exactly what I want it to, I can then export it and upload it online. And boom, all the dead air is now out of your videos, and I guarantee you that's going to make your videos at least 100% better if you're not going in and taking it out manually. And if you are going in and taking it out manually, oh my god, is this so much nicer. I would say the amount of times doing it with this method has screwed up my footage maybe once or twice in the dozens and dozens of videos I've used with this method. And here's the other good part. Say it did get a little too zealous with the cut. If I go into my timeline here, and here I can make it bigger so that it's easier for us to see. So say at this cut here, let's get an easy one. So this cut here, say it didn't actually go long enough. What I can do is I can just kind of move this out of the way, and all of it's still there. I can just take it and drag it out, and the footage is all still there. So if it cuts it too short, you can just naturally expand it out on your own and fix it in your manual edit. Then from there, we've taken a job of cutting out all the dead air, which takes, oh boy, for like an hour-long video, I think it would take me like an entire evening work just listening to my video, looking for the dead air in the waveforms, listening to dead air in the edit, and just going in and cutting it out and trying to determine, okay, how much dead air do I even want to cut out? How much is too much? I can just tell it in Audition, and then I make it offline. Premiere puts it all back together. I just drag and drop it back into the system, and it's good to go. All right, and there you have it. There is just a fun little tutorial that you can use to make your Magic content better without any dead air, without having to go through and edit it out all manually. If any of this has been of any help to you, go ahead and drop a comment. I don't have a donation portal. I don't have a Patreon. I don't even have 500 subscribers. But hey, if this was helpful to you, just let me know down in the comments. I'd love to see it. Link me to some of your stuff. I would love to see that too. And again, guys, go out there, go do B. I'll see you out there. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Bye.